Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a complex custom outer corner tile for your pattern brushes in Adobe Illustrator. Now, this is a deep dive into a subject I covered briefly in a previous video where we were discussing 10 different ways to customize your pattern brush. But I promised a video where we'd make a more complex custom outer corner tile, and so that's what we'll cover in this video. Now let me explain what you see on this screen. These 4 rectangles on the left side are showing corner tiles that Illustrator automatically auto-generated. I didn't have to make these, and at the end of the video I'll show you where they can be found. And then on the bottom right, this is the simple custom outer corner tile which I made in the previous tutorial. In this video, I'm going to make the outer corner tile which you see right here. And I want you to follow along closely because precision is the most important part of creating pattern brushes, and definitely when you're creating complex custom outer corner tiles. Everything has got to match up perfectly, or you're going to end up with little gaps that show up in between the corner tile and that pattern repeat, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to move to a different document, and this is the design which I'm going to be using. This is called the side tile, and this is the part of the design that's placed end to end to create the straight line of the pattern brush. I'm going to move this up into the top left corner, and then I'll hold down the Option key and drag out a copy, and then I'll hold the Option key down again and drag another copy to the left. I'll hold the Shift key down as well, so I drag in a perfectly horizontal line because I want these 2 pieces to match up. When I see the word intersect, that's Smart Guides telling me I'm in the right place, so I'll release my mouse. And if you don't see the word intersect, go up to View, down to Smart Guides, and you can turn them on here, or use the keyboard shortcut Command U. Now this second copy I've made needs to be rotated, so I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and you see the little rotate ball here in the center, but I need for it to be on the bottom right corner. So I'll place my cursor on that bottom right anchor and click down with my mouse. Now the rotate ball is moved. Then I'll grab hold of the left side of the design, and as I drag down, I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and that's going to cause the rotation to snap at 45-degree increments. And when I have 90 degrees showing, I'm going to release my mouse, and then get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect that piece. And now I have sort of a template where I can line up all of my design however I want in my outer corner tile. I'm going to start with this big piece here. I'll get the Rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M. I'm going to use Smart Guides to show me where the intersection of the left side and the top side should be. And then I'll click down with my mouse and drag from the top left down to the bottom right. And when I see the word intersect, I'll release my mouse. And I want to change the color, so I'll get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and sample this medium green. Then I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect it. And this is actually how I created that simple custom outer corner tile in the previous video. I just changed the color to black. But we're going to do a lot more with this tile. I'm going to zoom in. I'll get the Zoom tool, keyboard shortcut Z, because I want us to be able to look closely at what we're doing now. The thing I'm going to be watching for is any signs of lines along this outer corner tile, because if they're here, they're going to show up on the pattern brush. And by zooming in, I see that the bottom right corner doesn't line up perfectly. And that's because I wasn't careful and I drug this rectangle just a slight amount beyond the word intersect, which left me with a rectangle that is not the right size. So I'm going to get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and select it. And then I'm going to look in the Properties panel at the size, and I notice it's a little off. It's not exactly 1 inch by 1 inch, and that should be the size of that corner tile. So I'll go back to the Properties panel, and I'm going to highlight the width and change that to 1 and then same with the height. Then click on the artboard to deselect it. I'm going to adjust this corner tile. I want to make sure it's in the right place, and I'm going to move to the outline viewing mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, because that helps me see all the lines are lined up perfectly. They look great, so I'll move on to the next piece. I'll get the pen tool, keyboard shortcut P, and what I want to do is create a diagonal line that lines up with these two small lines on the side tile. So I'll click down with my mouse and just line up these anchors, hold the shift key down as I make that vertical line, and come back down and click here, and then hold the shift key down for a horizontal line. Now I'll move back to the preview mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, and get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and sample the dark green. Then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. Click on the artboard to deselect it, and I'm seeing just a little bit of light green showing through here, so I'm going to select both of these pieces. And then I'll come over to the Properties panel, and in the Pathfinder area, I'm going to click on this ellipsis for more options, and I'll choose this Divide Pathfinder. Now let me show you what's happened. I'll click on the artboard to deselect it, and we no longer see those little lines showing through. So I'll go back to the outline viewing mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, and create the next piece. I'll get the pen tool again, keyboard shortcut P, and this time I'm going to line up these two larger inside sections. So I'll start right here, click here, and then move over to this anchor, click here, hold down the shift key so I go perfectly vertical, then hold it again to go horizontal, and then I'm going to move back to the preview mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, and I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect that. And once again, I see these little lines here, so I'll select the pieces of the corner tile, go to the Properties panel in the Pathfinder area. I'm going to click on this ellipsis for more options and click on the Divide Pathfinder. I'll click on the artboard to deselect it, and now we don't see those lines anymore. You can actually wait until the very end of creating the corner tile and just click on the divide one time. I just wanted to make it clear how this process works. Now to bring in some of this light green color, I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and I'll click on the artboard to open the rectangle dialog box. I'll type in 0.2 inches for the width, tab down and type in 2 inches for the height and say OK. Then I'll get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and sample that light green color. Next, I'll get the rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and as I drag, I'm going to hold the shift key down so that my rotation is snapping at 45 degrees, and then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and drag this up to that corner tile, and then move back into the outline viewing mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, to help me line this up perfectly. It's not looking too bad, but I'm going to move it here, and you can see I'm right on that center point now. So I'll move back to the preview mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y. And incidentally, that's why it's so important for you to memorize these keyboard shortcuts, because you'll toggle back and forth with them all the time. For the next step, I'll select all of the pieces of the corner tile, and I'm going to drag them over to the left away from these side tiles and get the shape builder tool, keyboard shortcut Shift M. Now I can hold down the Option key and drag over these outer pieces that I don't need anymore, and then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. And I need to use the Divide Pathfinder one more time because I've added another piece. So I'll go back to the Properties panel in the Pathfinder area, click the ellipsis, and click Divide. Now when I press Divide, it grouped everything, so I need to ungroup it, keyboard shortcut Shift Command G, and then I'm able to manipulate these layers around. I'll select this piece here, get the eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I, and sample the dark green. Then select this light green piece, get the eyedropper tool, and sample the medium green, and finally get this light green piece here and sample the dark green once again. Then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and select all of these pieces and group them, keyboard shortcut Command G. Now once I have the design for the outer corner tile made, I'm almost ready to work on my pattern brush. But first, I've got to create a bounding box that shows Illustrator where that outer corner tile is going to line up with the side tile to make our pattern brush. Now, a bounding box is an invisible rectangle that goes behind the design, whether it's an outer corner tile or a side tile. So to make the bounding box, I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M. Then to make it invisible, I'll go to the Properties panel and remove the fill color. Then there's not a stroke color, so I'll begin making it by clicking on the top left anchor, and I'll drag down to the bottom right anchor. And you can see the little gray text box next to my cursor showing 1 inch by 1 inch, which is the size of my outer corner tile. So I'll release my mouse. Besides being invisible, the other thing I have to do with the bounding box is move it behind the design. To move it to the back, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-Left bracket. Then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, select everything including the bounding box, and group it with the keyboard shortcut Command-G. Now I'll move back out and center the artboard using the keyboard shortcut Command-0. I'll select the design and let's move it down here where it's easier to get to because I've got to create a bounding box for it as well. Sometimes you don't have to have a bounding box for your side tile, but when you're adding a corner tile like this, you do. I'll click on the artboard to deselect the design, then I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and I want to move over here and make sure I don't have a fill or a stroke color. Then I'm going to click down on the top left anchor and drag down to the bottom right anchor, and the little gray text box next to my cursor tells me I have a 4 by 1 inch bounding box, which is the size of my design, so I'll release my mouse. Now I've got to move that bounding box behind the design. I'll use the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-Left bracket to move it, get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, select the design and the bounding box, and then group them with the keyboard shortcut Command-G. Now I'm ready to create the pattern brush. So with the design selected, I'll open the Brushes panel. I've already moved my Brushes panel to the right side of my workspace, and you're going to want to do that as well. So go up to Window, down to Brushes, click here, and then you can drag and drop the Brushes tab over on the right side of your workspace next to the Layers tab. Now I'll go over to the bottom bar of the Brushes panel and click on the New Brush icon, and I'll choose Pattern Brush and say OK, and I'll change the name. Let's type in Green Brush and say OK because I can't add the corner tile until I've created the pattern brush. And now that it's made, I'm going to select the corner tile and I'm going to drag it over to the pattern brush, and it goes in this left corner here. And this is actually the outer corner tile bin. And when I hold the Option key down, the bin is highlighted, telling me Illustrator is accepting that outer corner tile, and when I release my mouse, the Pattern Brush Options dialog box opens up. I'm back to my green brush, and down here on the left is that outer corner tile bin, and you can see the corner tile I created has been placed there. Now when you create an outer corner tile, you're always creating it for the top left corner. You don't have to create for every single corner because Illustrator, as you see, is automatically going to adjust for that. And it may look like I've done something wrong because the outer corner tile is so much larger than the pattern brush. But in fact, Illustrator's just showing me the corners where my tile is going to show up, and it's going to take care of sizing these on its own. So I'm just going to say OK. Now I'll get this corner tile and our side tile, move these up out of the way, then select these pieces and delete them, and get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle. Then I'm going to click on our pattern brush to apply it, and get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect it. And what I end up with is a perfectly seamless pattern brush, including the outer corner tile, because I've been very careful with how I created that design. Now, I did tell you that I'd show you where Illustrator's auto-generated corner tiles are, so let's take a look at that. I'll double-click on the pattern brush, and that opens up the pattern brush options for my green pattern brush. As I said, the left bin is the outer corner tile bin. I can click on the side here and open up a pull-down menu, and you see the design I've just added. Then we have auto-centered and auto-between, auto-sliced, and auto-overlap. I typically don't use auto-sliced or auto-overlap because they tend to be a little choppy, but I do try auto-centered and auto-between because a lot of times I'm going to be happy with what Illustrator has come up with, and I don't have to go to the time and the trouble of creating my own. I'll hit cancel to move out of this, and let's move back to that original document where you can see all of the different corner tiles. Here's the auto-centered, the auto-between, and neither of those are too bad. I don't care for the auto-sliced or the auto-overlap, and that's why I wanted to create my own custom outer corner tile in this situation. Now, I've gone over a lot of detail in this video, but there are two things I really want to stress. The first one is to be very precise. Make sure that all of your anchors and your paths line up, and pay attention to smart guides to help you with that process so that what you end up with is a seamless corner tile with your pattern brush. The other thing is practice makes perfect. Don't get discouraged if the first 2 or 3 times you try this, your pattern brush isn't perfectly seamless. Just keep trying, because once you master this, you're going to be able to come up with some beautiful pattern brushes that you're going to be very proud of. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned some things about creating outer corner tiles. I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future tutorials, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.